may have heard the name Confucius, a philosopher, a teacher, a man who lived over 2,500 years ago in ancient China. He never ruled a kingdom, never led an army, and yet his thoughts shaped nations and his words still echo across the world. This video isn't about history. It's about the kind of wisdom that holds up even after 2,000 years. 10 short reflections, 10 quiet truths from a voice long gone, but somehow still right here. Let's begin. Start with yourself and let others follow. Zigong once asked Confucius, "What does it mean to be a noble person?" Confucius replied, "A noble person puts his words into action first, and only then others will choose to follow." It's easy to say the right thing. Living it is something else entirely. There's a story about Gandhi. A mother brought her young son to him and said, "Please, sir, could you tell my child to stop eating so much sugar? He respects you deeply," she added. "If you say it, he'll listen." Gandhi paused for a moment. Then he said, "Come back in 3 weeks." The mother was confused, but she returned 3 weeks later. Gandhi looked at the boy and gently said, "Too much sugar isn't good for you. Try to cut back, okay?" The mother asked, "Why didn't you say that the first time?" And Gandhi replied, "Because back then I still loved sugar. I needed to spend those 3 weeks reducing it myself. Only after doing that could I speak with honesty." Anyone can say the right word, but living those words, that's the rare part. Giving advice is easy, especially when you don't have to face the consequences. Miracles don't show up overnight. They come only to those who repeat. Confucius once said, "People are born with similar natures, but it's through learning and repetition that we grow apart." What we repeat is who we become. Aristotle said, "Excellence is not an act, but a habit." And Pascal believed we follow habits not because they're rational or right, but simply because they're habits. You shape a habit, and then the habit shapes you. It's like twisting a thin wire each day. One day that wire becomes a steel cable, something you can no longer break. As the old saying goes, the habits you form at 3 stay with you until you're 80. Or as another proverb puts it, after 40, people are married to their habits. In the end, it's not what we do once in a while that defines us, but what we do again and again. You can steal an army from a general, but you can't steal the resolve of an ordinary person. And that's what Confucius said. In his time, 3 armies meant 36,000 soldiers, a full military force under the command of 1 man, and yet even such power could be taken away. But a single person's inner conviction, that's something no one can touch. A person with a true purpose won't sell out for money. They won't shift their beliefs just because life gets hard. And they don't break under threats or pressure. You can take away someone's position, their wealth, even their future. But if their will stands firm, then they've already won. Before asking about death, maybe ask about life first. One of Confucius's students asked him, "How should we serve the spirits of the dead?" Confucius replied, "If you still don't know how to serve the living, how can you talk about serving the dead?" Then the student asked, "May I ask about death?" And Confucius answered, "If you don't understand life, how can you understand death?" He wasn't denying the importance of death, just reminding us that life is what's urgent. The unknown can wait, but this moment, this breath, this day cannot. Don't waste time wondering about what comes later. Do what you can, right now. There may be others as honest as me, but no one loves learning the way I do. That's what Confucius once said. He wasn't bragging, not about status or wisdom or talent, just this, that he truly loved to learn. In any village, there are people who are sincere, hardworking, and trustworthy. That's always been true, then and now. But what set him apart was his hunger to keep growing, not because he was the smartest, but because he never stopped being curious. That's what made a man named Chu into the teacher we now call Confucius. It wasn't brilliance, it was love. For learning, for questioning, for never being done. The end is near, because I've yet to see someone truly blame themselves. That's what Confucius said, except for one student, Yan Hui. He never passed anger forward and never made the same mistake twice. But aside from him, Confucius said that he'd never met a person who owned their faults and looked inward with shame. Everyone makes mistakes, but not everyone admits them, and fewer still try to change. The real danger isn't being wrong. It's thinking you're always right. To know your own flaw is the first step toward being good, and to feel shame when your words outpace your actions, that's the mark of character. Confucius spoke often about mistakes, not to punish, but to remind us that reflection is rare and precious, even in his time. 2,500 years ago, he said this: "The world is falling into darkness. There is no future when no one owns their faults." A pushed life is very different from a life you push. Confucius said, if someone isn't struggling to understand, I won't enlighten them. If they're not trying to express, I won't explain. He didn't mean to be harsh. He meant growth can't be handed to you. You have to want it, chase it, trip over it. If a student didn't feel stuck, he didn't interrupt. If they weren't stumbling to speak, he didn't step in. Why? Because real learning starts when frustration turns into curiosity. His students asked, he answered, and that's how they learned. Half through the question and half through the reply. He would give one and wait for them to discover the other three. He taught them not to be pulled through life, but to move it with their own hands. If you don't like being hurt, don't hurt others. One day, Zigong asked, is there one word I can live by? Use for my whole life? Confucius replied, yes, the word is shu. It means, don't do to others what you wouldn't want for yourself. Zigong didn't quite get it at first, so Confucius added, if you'd hate it done to you, don't do it to them. We all know what that means. But how often do we live it? Shu is more than a rule. It's empathy, it's restraint, it's the choice to say, their heart matters too. If you don't want to be mocked, don't mock. If you want to be understood, try to understand. At the heart of Shu is this simple truth: you and I are not so different. By 50, stop blaming the world, start looking inward. Confucius said, the noble person looks within, the petty one blames others. Long before him, the Greek philosopher Thales said, the easiest thing in life is giving advice. The hardest is knowing yourself. Both men lived thousands of miles apart in different worlds, but came to the same truth. You don't grow by pointing fingers, you grow by turning them inward. True leaders don't ask, who did this to me? They ask, what can I learn from this? The more we blame, the farther we drift from becoming better. You can't move forward if you're always looking out the window. Sometimes you have to look in the mirror. The reason we still remember Confucius isn't because life was easy for him, it's because he kept going. He didn't enter public service until he was over 50, and even then, he wandered from one state to another. Rejected, misunderstood, barely accomplishing what he set out to do. But he never stopped walking. When asked later in life about his path, Confucius simply said, my way is held together by one thread. I've stayed true to it, from beginning to end. That thread wasn't power, or fame, or perfection. It was consistency, devotion, the quiet decision to keep showing up, even when no one noticed. And that is what made him great.